So I came across this post on Reddit that was fascinating. This is an AMA. I was paid to discredit veganism online. So it says, for a year, I worked for a meat industry trade group. I won't say which one, but they are US based. My job was to go on sites like this and discredit veganism. We'd make multiple accounts and pretend to be vegans who had bad health outcomes. Or we'd pretend to be vegans and we'd push the vegan subs to be more extreme and therefore easier to discredit. It was pretty gross. I knew it. I did it anyway. The pay wasn't worth it. I signed an NDA as well. So I will only be able to answer questions in general terms. But I do warn you, don't believe that everyone is who they say they are online. The recent reveal that many MAGA accounts on X being run by foreign agencies made me decide to do this. Oof.
Yeah. Uh, that is the perfect real world example of astroturfing,
Yeah.
right? It's psychological manipulation. And that's what we're seeing, right? People are profiting off of outrage every single day. So when you go back to examples like this, it's no wonder people have a hard time knowing what's real and what's not.
Yeah. And I knew that stuff like this happened. I'm not naive, but I'm also inclined to give everyone the benefit of the doubt. And, I go on Reddit a lot and I don't automatically assume that every post I see could be by some bad actor or someone pretending to be something that they're not. So this was just kind of like a wake up call for me. Like, remember, even something as innocuous as going to like a vegan subreddit could be filled with bad actors trying to sway how you feel. And I think about it a lot in terms of how men and women relate to each other. I feel like there has been a subtle campaign online to cause division between men and women to the point where there's so much hatred and animosity between the sexes that I don't know that is so different in real life than what you see online. Like the vitriol you see online is so different than what you experience in real life. And it's like, I don't know what's real. I don't know what to believe.
Unfortunately, a lot you talked about the whole, X, Twitter thing, the fact that we have all of these foreign, a lot of it Russian, right? Fake accounts, people trying to cause division. Their whole goal is to cause division. So whether it's race or gender or age, generational, it doesn't matter. That's the whole goal. But it's interesting because when we go back to this, Reddit, this is typical. So when you get what they call astroturfing, these people, whether it's foreign or like right from within the US, from corporate entities or industries that do this, they create these multiple fake accounts. They pretend to be vegans. They share negative health stories. They infiltrate these communities. They push conversations to extreme positions, and they make those communities look unreasonably unhealthy.
Hmm.
But here's the thing on this, why target vegans? They're only, what, 1 to 2% of the population? What do they gain from that? It's only, the rest of the 95, 6% are meat eaters. I don't get that part of it.
The post mentioned an article about the beef industry and how they've been involved in astroturfing, and I'll share that in a second. But I do want to share a video that talks just about what astroturfing is.
Soon after the coronavirus pandemic began, small anti stay at home protests erupted in dozens of states around the country.
When things appear to be spontaneous and exciting, and especially they're happening all over the country, that tends to gain a lot of media attention.
But many of these protests that appeared to be generated spontaneously were in fact manufactured by well funded organizations. The practice is known as astroturfing.
Astroturfing is an effort to mobilize the mass public in a way that distances that mobilization from the person who is sponsoring it or the organization that's sponsoring it.
While fake grassroots campaigns have been utilized for decades, some experts trace the first documented case of astroturfing on social media to South Korea in 2012. Jungwan Yang is an assistant professor at the University of Illinois whose research focuses on data science and political communication.
A lot of astroturfing campaigns happen all over the internet. It's not just on Twitter or Facebook. It's on Wikipedia, it's on the internet forum and everywhere.
A study from Princeton University found that there were at least 53 such influence efforts targeting 24 countries around the world from 2013 to 2018.
These campaigns really do try to cover their tracks. They can often do so very effectively. Even the website domains that they use can be registered privately, such that you can't tell who's behind it.
Multiple cybersecurity firms investigated the Reopen America movement, finding that domains were being batch registered within seconds of each other. They were subsequently traced back to state-based firearms coalitions and ultimately to a pro-gun Iowa family.
Once a couple of accounts become really popular, they can gather thousands of followers, and then they can use that platform to spread disinformation.
So reopen America, huh?
So interesting. When I had first heard the term astroturfing, it was a while ago. I haven't done the fact checking on this, but supposedly back in the 80s, there was a senator who was complaining that the lobbyists were sending in all these fake letters, supposedly from constituents. And so it's supposed to be this grassroots effort. And he said, that's BS. This is AstroTurf. It's not real grassroots. So I'm not sure if that's, valid. I haven't looked that up
I
specifically,
did
but I
see,
thought
yeah,
think about it.
I saw, an article about that. It was someone who it was an elected a federal elected official in the '80s who came
Yeah,
up with it.
like a senator or yeah, exactly. So this kind of stuff's been going on well before social media, right?
Yeah, but just the accessibility of the internet and how widespread it is just makes it easier to spread this disinformation and misinformation faster than ever before, which is frightening.
Right. And that's what we talked about the algorithms make it really difficult to escape it because it's interesting. Why can't we get both sides? Right? Why can't we just see the facts coming in and get both sides and people can make up their minds? But that's not what's happening. You're getting pushed constantly, just one side of whatever the issue is. And then people just start believing that because of the repetition. And then it's hard to really break yourself out of that. That's the crime in the algorithms and where I think AI can make a difference.
I hope so, because I think anything can be a force for good or a force for evil depending on how we use it.
I am adamant that somehow AI can help. Since it's been part of the problem, it can also help. I mean, imagine going through your feed and seeing something on there and AI has already flagged it, right? Has already flagged it with this isn't completely true, here's the source of the information. People can do that now on their own. I mean, you can look at something and if it this is one of the tells, if it makes you really emotional either way, especially the anger, especially the outrage, please fact check it because
Yeah.
that's what it's designed to do. And you could do a simple, let me take this, let me put it in chat GPT and say, is this information based on fact? Is this factual? And where are the sources? Because you always have to ask for the sources because AI can hallucinate still. But that's one way, and that's an easy way. That's simple.
Well, it is simple, but to Momo's point, unfortunately, people cannot critically think for themselves anymore. They believe what they see, and how many people will go and check to make sure that the thing that they're looking at or reading is factual? That's an extra step that they have to take.
Yeah. And unfortunately, here's the thing, we are tribal by nature.
Yeah,
So we look for the communities that support and continue to create that comfort in our beliefs, right? We like to go where people know our name. That's a whole cheers thing, but we like that social proof. We're wired for it. The problem is, do you want your mind to be hijacked and controlled by whether it's corporations or billionaires or politicians, whatever, for their own benefit, or even creators, right? The biggest issue right now is people are making money off of our outrage.
Mhm.
So, do we want to continue letting people make money and benefit off our outrage? Or do we want to say, hell no, no more? And we are going to think critically and we are going to fact check and we are going to start holding people accountable.
Well, speaking of making money off of us, back to the question of the why they would want to target vegans. I found an article through that Reddit post, the article that they shared about the beef industry. This is from The Guardian. Inside Big Beef's climate messaging machine, confuse, defend, and downplay. Quick summary of this: the National Council of Beef Advocacy, the NCBA, created a free online training course called the Masters of Beef Advocacy. It's called MBA, but it's not actually like a certified
Right.
MBA program, which has over 21,000 graduates. The course teaches scientific sounding arguments to advocates and spokespeople to deploy in online and offline conversations. The goal is to amplify the message that dietary change has no role in climate strategy, despite scientific papers indicating that wealthy nations must reduce meat consumption to avoid severe planetary heating. They basically want to sow confusion about animal agriculture's impact. So they want to have people say that the methane gas that cows produce is not harmful for our environment. And so that's why they're going after the vegans. And this is all to get us to believe things that are not true. And it's like its entire industry backed campaign.
Yeah. And then we have science that just says otherwise.
And they
Mega
do the
methane
same thing with
gas.
climate change. There's like oil companies behind climate change disinformation campaigns.
Yeah. 100% jazzy. Prompting. Yeah. Um, that's where, to me, the underlying issue is the profit, the money. It always goes back to the money, right? That's why we're still using gas engines, and we haven't been on electric cars forever.
And why we are driving instead of having like a high speed train system
Or a flying
across the country.
car. I mean, remember Back to the Future? Whatever it is, we should be in flying cars by now. I mean, there's
Jetsons.
the Jetsons. So, I don't know, it's always about the money. How do we
So
combat that, right?
eat the rich, eat the rich.